Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. But you see the MMR logo in the corner there. What does that mean? It's a Mormon Media Reviews segment. And we also typically see Rebecca Biblioteca join us for these special episodes. Rebecca, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you, Steve. That's right. Here I am. Whenever there's an MMR episode, I'm right there on the spot. That's me.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because you also do a book club. You'd think we'd do more book stuff together, which we will. We will be doing.
We're going to.
Yep,
We're going to.
doing a
Very
special
soon. Yep.
together. So stay tuned for that, folks. But Mormon Media Reviews covers all non-book related media, which covers TV programs, movies, and plays. And we want to welcome back a guest that we recently had on, Debora Threedy, who did a play about wrote a play about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And we want to tell everybody about this special event that's happening here. It's going to happen, you guys, in Utah on July 15th. It's going to be a special presentation of this play. And so you guys know all the details better than I do. So Debora, I want you to welcome to the show and tell us about this fantastic program that you got coming up.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on the show again. Yes. So the cast, this play was produced in Salt Lake City, end of February, beginning of March. It was a sold out run, so there were a lot of people who didn't get a chance to see it who would have liked to. Entrada Institute, which I'll talk about more in a little bit, is hosting a staged reading of the play using the same cast from the performance. Now, they're not in costume, they won't be performing the play, but they'll be reading the play. And Entrada Institute is live streaming this on its Facebook page. So anyone who wants to can see the staged reading of the play Mountain Meadows. Furthermore, if you actually want to go sit in the room, or which hopefully is more likely, sit in the beautiful backyard of the Entrada Institute with Boulder Mountain in the background, and see the actors read it on the outdoor stage, you need to go to entradainstitute.org, make a reservation. There's no cost, but you do have to register, and then go to Torrey, Utah, which is where Entrada Institute is located.
Okay, so this is really cool. So again, mark on your calendars. If you want to go in person to this event, you need to get to the Entrada Institute's website. Now, it could either be an indoor, depending on weather, could be either an indoor or an outdoor thing. We're rooting for good weather, so it can be a nice, cool outdoor event. And Rebecca, you've actually seen the play, so I want you to tell people why they should go and see it.
Yeah, no, and I'm evangelizing this just like you are, Steve, just up and down, shouting it from the rooftops. So I came across a Facebook post in February with this very provocative cover art and Mountain Meadows, which of course, if you know me, you know that's something I have a deep interest in and a connection to. And so instantly I threw it out to my book club. I said, let's get a group together. Let's try to go. Well, by the time enough of us tried to get tickets, only 4 of us were able to get tickets because, as Debora said, it was sold out. So I think maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5 of us were able to go. And this was in Salt Lake. It was in a sort of a black boxy kind of a theater. It's so hard to describe. It was absolutely incredible. The story of the Mountain Meadows juxtaposed with Juanita Brooks trying to bring this information and this story forward against all odds and opposition from the cultural and sort of church climate there. Just incredible. And as we all sat there and watched, I mean, you could hear a pin drop. It was so riveting what we were seeing. The actors were incredible. The play itself, just so well written, just incredible. And as we left, and we actually met Debora there for the first time, we kind of connected through text, and we were able to meet her. We all walked out and we said, why? We want everyone to see this. This just really encapsulates everything, how it's an institutional, generational story that continues today, that impacts all of us, that we all can learn from. And it's not just something in the past. It's a living piece of history that continues for a lot of us. And so we were so thrilled to learn that a readers theater was going to be happening with those same incredible actors and actresses that we had seen in Salt Lake, and also the actual readers theater available for people to attend. So again, we grabbed some people for a book club. There's probably like 6 or 7 of us that went on the website right away, got our reservations, and we are going to Torrey. So if any of your viewers, Steve, want to come down there, some people from my book club are going to be there. It's going to be really fun. And if not, anyone in the world can view this on Facebook on that day on the Entrada Institute Facebook page. And we were just so happy that more people are going to get to see this, because it needs to be seen over and over.
Well, that's great. And it's wonderful because, of course, we've had Debora on our program to discuss the play. We got a lot of real positive feedback. And by the way, we've also seen I've seen a kind of an uptick in views on the episode over the last month, because I think there's been a lot more talk with of course, we have Barbara Brown's and John Turley's new book that's come out. So it's starting to get back into the bloodstream, getting back into the conversation. And I think it's really an important story that you were, because Debora, you're not a member of the church. You're originally from actually Chicago, as I recall, and you are just a Gentile who just really interested in history of Utah, but also Mormon history as well. And so, and then you found out that these events of the Mountain Meadows Massacre didn't happen that far from where you lived, and so you kind of delved into it. So maybe just talk a little bit about what got you to delve into the story and ultimately write the play.
Yeah, I've lived in Utah for over 30 years, moved here in 86 from Chicago. And when I moved here, I had never heard of Mountain Meadows. And for some period of time after I lived here, I never heard of Mountain Meadows. And I don't actually recall the first time I heard of it. Probably was sometime in the 90s, I would be guessing. And then I had a professional association with a forensic archaeologist who was called in to study bones of the murdered members of the wagon train that were accidentally uncovered in 1999. And she came and she talked to a class of mine, and we stayed in touch. And she invited me to participate in a panel in 2007 on the 150-year anniversary of the massacre. And then, as you mentioned, Steve, I retired. I was a law professor at the University of Utah, and I retired and I moved down to Southern Utah. And I had it in my mind that the massacre site was up by Cedar City. But shortly after I moved, I was out for a Sunday drive, and lo and behold, the massacre site is about 10 miles from my home. So I took that as a sign from the universe that maybe I should write a play about it. And I did.
Wow. And it's so interesting because, a lot of people would be like, what, I mean, as an outsider, what intrigues you about the state of Utah and its history? Because you've also delved into other topics of history in Utah as well. What is it that you love about Utah, its history, and what you find so compelling about it?
I'm a believer in blooming where you're planted. And as I got planted in Utah, I love the state, by the way. I love the natural resources of the state. I'm a desert rat. I love the deserts of Southern Utah. And because I love this place, I became very interested in finding about the history of this place, the people who lived here and loved it before I did. And that's led, as you mentioned, to several of my plays have been focused on Utah, and particularly this one. And of course, when I started researching this play, Mountain Meadows, what immediately grabbed me was the story of Juanita Brooks and her contribution to preserving the history, uncovering the truth about Mountain Meadows, and then preserving that story. So that became very much the focus of the play.
Rebecca, why don't you tell the audience who Juanita Brooks was and why this story in particular touches so close to home for you?
Yeah, I think probably that Deborah can speak more to exactly her background, but what I know of her is, of course, just her book, which was a volume about the Mountain Meadows Massacre that described it in a way that no one had ever done before. This, as I said, was sort of an institutional and generational secret, a shame. People didn't talk about it because it was very close. Even when she was writing this book 100 years later, I think it was about 100. Is that right? Was it in the 40s that she was writing, or 50s? Yeah,
She started
almost
in the
100.
mid-30s. Yeah. And it
Yeah,
was
that's what I was thinking.
published
So almost, that's what I was thinking. So almost 100 years later, people didn't talk about it. I mean, I've mentioned my ancestor that participated as a member of the lieutenant in the militia, and my own family, they do not talk about it. The younger ones, younger than me and my age, don't know about it. The ones that are older, who's actually my grandpa's who we're talking about, was in the Mountain Meadows, they will not say. It's just nothing they talk about. And here's Juanita, and she has a love of history. She has a love of the truth. She's trying to get the word out. She's trying to write this book, and she's running into so much pushback, of course, because this is an event that has so many nuances on so many levels. It's so horrific. It's such a human story. It's a tragedy, and nobody really wants to bring this out. But Juanita did. So to use her as a device, and not just a device, but the main character, a catalyst to show the whole story. I thought it was brilliant. That's why I love this play so much. Just brilliant. And I would love to see more done just on Juanita herself. Just an incredible person.
She is, and similar to you, her grandfather participated in Mountain Meadows, but despite that, she had grown up never really knowing, sometimes it was mentioned, but it was always described as an Indian attack, a Paiute attack on the wagon train. And she was in her 20s before she realized that, no, this involved Mormon settlers in the Dixie area, including her grandfather. So yeah, that same discovery of the family secret, the shame, and the shame that covered it up, and the toll that took on people, the emotional toll that took, as well as kind of the social toll. She thought it was not good for the church to avoid the truth of this. Famously, she said, "Only the truth is good enough for the church I serve." So she was an amazing woman.
Deborah, have you gotten any negative pushback from people about your play?
No, I really haven't. Of course, that doesn't mean there isn't any, but it just means it hasn't come to me.
Rebecca?
Well, I can talk about negative feedback because I've posted a couple episodes on the podcast that I run with Landon Brophy, Mormonish. So we talked to Everett Bassett, who is a Mountain Meadows archaeologist. We posted an episode with a presentation from him that he had given to our book club a year or so ago. And we had, it was about the Mountain Meadows. It was simply evidence, archaeology. We really didn't talk much about the events, except for through the lens of archaeology and looking for where the mass graves were and things. And we certainly got a lot of comments that said lies, all lies, things like that, which was interesting to me. We got a lot of positive comments, people that knew a lot about the Mountain Meadows and appreciated that. But it's interesting. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that the feelings still run very deep, and people still do not want to come to terms with what happened. And so the easiest thing to say, I think, is to attack the people, which is what happened to Juanita, to attack the people who are trying to get the truth out. So it's interesting. It's still a hot button all these years later, still an incredible hot button.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because, of course, many books have been written about this subject, and we've lined up, Rebecca. We're going to be getting on Barbara Brown and Richard Turley to come on the program, so we're going to be talking to them about that. And so this is just the beginning of the conversation, because there's still a lot of people who don't really know the story. They still haven't heard the story, and now we're getting the church is acknowledging more things now. it is kind of coming to terms with its past on many ways, which I think is really important, that in order to bring some kind of healing to this whole thing, and closure, healing, these are words that we use. There, it doesn't undo what happened, but I do think it does help the importance of acknowledging your past faults, the mistakes that you've made, and being able to build upon that is so important. Because of course you had even talked, Rebecca, about how you went and did kind of a pilgrimage last year there, and you ran into family members who were you were related to people who did the killing, and they were related to the people who were the victims. So maybe just talk about how, and then of course the last time we had Debora on was the only time you've ever cried.
The only time. I'm holding it together. I still have my rock, right here to remind me how that happened, because it's surprising to me how impactful that all of this is to me still. But it's true. We did go down there with our book club, and we ran into descendants of the survivors. The young children were left alive because they were too young to tell the tale. And it is that moment where, here we are, century later, but it still is your past, it's your history. And so I felt very responsible. I put some little rocks around that said I'm very sorry at the different monuments, and ran into some of the descendants of the survivors who just gave me a big hug and said, it's all good now. We're, there's no animosity. I mean, really, what are you supposed to say, right? It's just kind of a weird feeling to be on the other side of that event and think about what happened. But I will say, talking about closure and the church and coming to terms and truth, I remember over the years, they've sort of tried to be a little more forthcoming in what they believe happened. There was an article that came out in the Ensign years ago, decades ago, where they were going to finally tell, they had some historians looked into it, and they were going to finally tell what they thought happened. And I, of course, was very interested in that. And the article basically laid all of the blame at the feet of basically my ancestor on the High Council, right? It was some members gone rogue on the High Council. And I just remember being very upset by that, because although they did make that decision, there were so many other things at play. So I do appreciate these new books that are coming out, like Barbara's book. I've talked to Barbara about it already, and definitely the book takes the view that there was a climate, there was rhetoric from the pulpit, from Brigham Young himself. I mean, it was not perhaps what everyone thought it was in the past. There's a lot more to it, and so many pieces at play. So that makes me feel better. My ancestor was part of this whole thing, and we'll never know exactly what he felt or why he did what he did, but there's a lot more to it. So I'm happy to see that. And in fact, I was going to say, our book club for September, we wanted to read a book on Mountain Meadows again, because we're so interested. There's so many out there now. We decided just to throw out every book there is and say, everyone in the book club, choose one of these. And we're going to have a big discussion, right? Read Will Bagley, read Turley, read Juanita Brooks, read, whatever you'd like to read on this. We'll give you all the ideas. And then let's just bring our points of view and let's discuss, because it's an important dialogue to have. I think it'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes. It's an experiment.
Well, Debora, I was just wondering, you said you're very interested in the history, and you love Utah and everything like that. I'm just curious, are you working on any current or future projects that you'd like to, continue on this journey?
I would like to write, I'm not quite sure of the form, and that's what's got me stuck at the moment. But I would like to write more of Juanita's biography. This play focuses very much on her struggle to tell the story of Mountain Meadows and all the obstacles that were thrown in her way. She was not allowed to see documents that were in the church's history office. There were very few of the actual participants that were alive anymore. She ran into people who had deliberately destroyed historical documents relating to Mountain Meadows, including the woman who was the head of the Daughters of Utah Pioneers. So she got pushback from her community, from her faith leaders, from her family. But despite all of that, she went ahead and told this story. But there is so much more to her life. She really lived an amazing life that started on the frontier down in Bunkerville, a suburb of Mesquite, and then she died in 1989. So, all the way into the atomic age. Just an amazing lifetime, and amazing things and challenges that she met and overcame. I would just love to tell a fuller story of her life than this play allows me to.
Then, so would you say that you would actually consider writing a book about her, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about that. Friends have encouraged me to think in terms of, sort of a fictional biography, because I'm not really interested in writing a historical biography. Levi Peterson has already done an amazing job of that, and there's another one in the works that's supposed to be coming out in this fall. I want to tell more of a story, that seems more like a movie or a book. I don't know if I've got a book in me, though. I know I've got lots of plays in me. I don't know if I have a book in me.
I want to read that book. I hope you do, because I know, like you said, Lindsay Hansen Park, her treatment is coming out in the fall, and we're all just wildly looking forward to that. But what you described sounds amazing. I hope you do have a book in you. We'll have you on, right, Steve? For sure, right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Book it now. Book it now.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's great. Well, Deborah, I think, I haven't actually seen the play. I'm hoping I'll be able to catch the live stream. I just want to remind you, okay, so this is July 15th. It's a Saturday. It's at 7 p.m. It's at the Entrada Institute. Where is the Entrada Institute located? And I'm going to have links in the description for all of this.
Torrey, Utah.
Torrey, Utah. Okay. So you got all the information there. And of course,
by the way, because this is your podcast, remind everybody we're talking about 7 o'clock Mountain Time.
Oh, yes. Thank you. 7 o'clock Mountain Time. That would be 9 p.m. Eastern Time where I'm at. So, yes, thank you for reminding me that. I got so many people in different time zones. So that's that Mountain time zone. Absolutely. And of course, if you can't get to the play, I'm going to put a link to the Entrada Institute's Facebook group. So you'll be able to watch the live stream that way as well. So, Deborah, very exciting that you're getting the whole cast and crew back together again, and you're going to be doing this. I imagine it must be a real exciting thing to see people who really have latched onto this project and have really seen your vision and want to see this story to continue to be told.
Yes, it's very exciting, very gratifying too.
Well, that's great. And then Rebecca, you're going to be there, right?
I'm going to be there. We're taking a group from our book club, and we are going to be, hopefully, I love the idea of hearing it outdoors. I really hope that the weather is good and that happens, because I think that would just be sort of a magical evening. And again, it's just, you guys have just all got to watch it. It's so hard to describe. It's a wonderful play. It really is. I mean, I know it's about the Mountain Meadows, and you're thinking, how can that be wonderful? But just the emotion, just the human story, it's an incredible play. I can't recommend it more.
I have to say that, one of the things I found out is that people will see me at events and later on will say, I saw you, but I didn't want to, they were like nervous to say hi, or they didn't want to bother me. Folks, if you see Rebecca at the Entrada Institute, I want you to go up to her and tell her how much you appreciate everything she's doing. And I want you to shake her hand and tell her how awesome of a person that she is, so make sure
I know what they're going to say if they meet me. They're going to say, so what's Steve really like? Tell me about Steve. I know that's going to happen. So,
and this is the other thing too. I just want to point this out. The other day I got this in the mail, folks. This is a cross stitch from one of my viewers. She lives in Iowa and her name is Deb. And she sent me a cross stitch of my MBR logo. That's the other thing you got to be prepared for, is when you have people start taking the time to make things, Rebecca. That's also a really cool experience that you experience when you're doing this kind of thing. You have a real connection to the audience. So shout out to Deb. Thank you. Super awesome gift. Okay, so folks, remember, you got to be there or be square, or at least watch it on the live stream. Okay, and check it out. It's really important you get out to this, and you're gonna meet new people. You're gonna introduce yourself to Deborah, and she's a great human being. And just make it a fun Saturday night where you can just get there and enjoy yourselves. Also, be solemn too, because of course it's a tragic story. But also enjoy. Just hopefully the weather cooperates, and you'll be able to watch it outdoors as well. So either way, folks, I just want to remind you. Don't forget. Oh, and Deborah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And Rebecca, thanks for co-hosting today.
So welcome. Always a pleasure.
And just a reminder, folks, don't forget our merch store, MormonBookReviews.com. Hot chocolate mugs, not coffee mugs, hot chocolate mugs, t-shirts, hats, you name it. It's all there at our store. Also, for those of you who'd like to financially support the channel, we have links in the description for both Patreon as well as PayPal. By the way, I'm going to try to get out to Sunstone. Apparently, they do want me to umpire the game between the Exmos and the fundamentalists. So maybe I'll get out there. Maybe I might need to do a GoFundMe campaign to help me pay my way, because I've just done 2 trips and I'm really running low on finances as well. So look for that. Maybe I'll set up.
And aren't you invited to also the other conference that's coming up at the same time? Whitmer, that's what I'm saying. So you're trying to go to 2 different things. Yeah, we definitely should. Yeah, you should have some your fans show some love for that. That's great, because we want to see it Sunstone for sure. We want to hang out with Steve.
Sunstone was such a blast. It really was like going to a fan convention. I always say it's where Burning Man meets Mormonism. It's just such a great place to be. So anyway, folks, hopefully I'll see you at Burning Man. Oh, no.
Wow, Steve.
And as well as John Whitmer is Texas, and maybe I'll be getting out to the United Kingdom for Sunstone UK. So either way, don't forget, this is the most important thing, folks, is this. Just remember, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.